Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great honor that I stand before you today to deliver a message of revelation, transformation, and divine purpose. We serve a God who moves with intentionality, a God who does not waste moments, trials, or encounters. He orchestrates events not only to elevate his children, but also to expose the forces that work against them. There are times when God places you in the life of someone who appears strong, confident, and immovable. Yet your presence alone begins to stir up the waters around them. You see, the narcissist thrives in an atmosphere of control, manipulation, and deception. They build their world on shifting sand, disguising insecurity as confidence and selfishness as love. But when God sends a chosen vessel into their life, the foundation they have built begins to shake. That vessel, my dear friends, is you. God used you not as a victim, but as a catalyst. Your presence, your light, and your anointing were never meant to blend in with their darkness. Instead, it stirred the storm within them. It exposed what was hidden, it agitated what was settled, and it unsettled what was once comfortable. This is not a sign of your weakness, but a testimony to your divine assignment. Many of you have asked, why did I have to go through this? But I challenge you to shift your perspective. The real question is, why did God allow me to be the one to disturb their false peace? You see, God does not send his people into places without purpose. You were not there by accident. You were a divine disruption to a cycle that needed to be broken. Tonight we will unpack the divine purpose behind the storm. We will examine why God used you, why the narcissists reacted the way they did, and why their response to you was necessary for your growth. 7 key revelations will illuminate this truth and bring clarity to your journey. Open your hearts, prepare your spirits, and let the wisdom of God minister to you. God sent you as a disruptor, not a victim. When God places you in a situation, it is never without purpose. You were not sent into the life of the narcissist to be a passive participant or a helpless victim. You were sent as a disruptor, a divine instrument to challenge the deception that surrounded them. A disruptor does not move with weakness, but with the authority of heaven. When you walked into that relationship, friendship, or situation, something in the atmosphere shifted. The narcissists had built their world on illusions, carefully crafted lies that kept them in control. But when you arrived, your presence alone began to disturb what they had worked so hard to maintain. You carried a light that exposed their darkness. You carried a truth that made their deception uncomfortable. And because of this, they began to react. Not because you were weak, but because your spirit was too strong to be manipulated. You see, the enemy does not fight what does not threaten him. If you were insignificant, the narcissist would not have needed to wage war against you. But because you carried something that could dismantle their power, they had to attempt to break you. They sought to confuse you, to make you doubt your worth, and to convince you that you were powerless. But hear me. The fact that they fought you so hard is proof that you carried something they could not control. God used you to stir the storm in their life because he knew that the deception they lived in needed to be confronted. He knew that you would not be able to stay silent in the face of lies. He knew that the light in you would be too powerful for the darkness in them. And so he sent you, not to suffer, but to shake the foundation they stood on. And here's what you must understand. Being a disruptor comes with a price. It means rejection, opposition, and sometimes suffering. But what the enemy meant for harm, God will turn for your good. You were never powerless. You were never weak. You were a divine assignment sent to disturb what should never have existed in the first place. So do not see yourself as a victim. See yourself as an instrument of heaven. The storm did not begin because you were broken. It began because you carried too much truth to be ignored. You were sent to stir the storm, not to be consumed by it. Your presence exposed their hidden darkness. The narcissist thrives in deception. They construct an image so well that even they begin to believe their own lies. They convince the world that they are kind, loving, and confident. But what happens when the presence of someone anointed by God steps into their life? The false image begins to crack. Your presence alone was a problem for them. You didn't even have to speak, you just had to be there. The light in you revealed what was hidden in them. The kindness you showed contrasted with the selfishness in their heart. The love you gave exposed the emptiness they carried. Every time they looked at you, they were reminded of what they were not. They could not tolerate your honesty because it made their deception uncomfortable. They could not handle your love because it highlighted their inability to love selflessly. This is why they had to attack you. This is why they had to gaslight you, twist your words, and manipulate your emotions. Because the only way they could silence your truth was to make you question it. But what they did not realize was that they were not fighting you, they were fighting the presence of God in you. And that is a battle they could never win. God sent you as a mirror, a reflection that forced them to see themselves for who they truly were. That is why they despised you, why they resented you, why they fought you. Because the spirit in you was too pure to be deceived. And so the storm began. The lies they told could no longer stand. The image they created began to collapse. And as they felt their world shaking, they blamed you. But the truth is, you did not cause the storm, God did. He simply used you as the instrument to expose what was always there. The storm was a sign of your assignment, not your failure. Many of you have wondered, did I do something wrong? Why did everything fall apart the moment I entered their life? But let me tell you something, the storm was not a sign of your failure. It was a sign of your assignment. When Jesus stepped into a place, demons cried out. When light enters darkness, darkness cannot remain comfortable. The narcissist's reaction to you was not because you were weak. It was because you carried something they could not control. God allowed the storm to happen because He needed to reveal what was hidden. If everything had remained calm, you might have never seen their true nature. If the storm had not come, you might have continued believing the illusion they created. But because the storm came, you saw the truth. You did not fail. You were successful in what God sent you to do. You stirred the waters. You disrupted the deception. You exposed the reality. And now you are being released to step into something greater. The narcissist's resistance revealed their true nature. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that will bring clarity to your situation. The resistance you faced from the narcissist was never a reflection of your worth. It was a revelation of their true nature. People can wear masks for years, but when confronted with the presence of truth, those masks begin to fall. The narcissist thrives on control, manipulation, and deception, but your presence, your very being, became the force that exposed them. You see, when you first enter their life, they may have seemed charming, confident, and even loving. They told you what you wanted to hear, made promises they never intended to keep, and gave you just enough attention to make you believe that you had found something real. But the moment they realized they could not control you, the moment they saw that your spirit could not be manipulated, their true self was revealed. Their kindness turned to cruelty, their love turned to resentment, and their admiration turned to jealousy. The narcissist's resistance was not just about you, it was about the battle between light and darkness. The spirit in you was too pure for the deception in them. They could not stand to see you thrive in truth because it meant they had to confront their own lies. They could not handle your strength because it highlighted their weakness. Instead of being inspired to change, they chose to fight you, to silence you, to discredit you because the truth you carried was too much for them to bear. This is why they tried to break you. They lied to you, twisted your words, and made you question your own reality. They gaslighted you because they knew that if they could confuse you, they could control you. But hear me tonight. What they did to you was not about who you are, it was about who they are. The storm that erupted when you entered their life was a sign that God was revealing their true character. Many of you have asked, why did they treat me this way? Why did they betray me? Why did they turn against me after all I gave? The answer is simple. You were never dealing with who they pretended to be. You were dealing with their true nature, and God allowed the storm to reveal it to you. This was not your failure, this was your awakening. You needed to see them for who they truly were so that you would not remain bound by their deception. So instead of mourning what you lost, I challenge you to thank God for what He revealed. You are free now, not because they let you go, but because God opened your eyes. The storm did not come to destroy you, it came to expose them. And now that you see the truth, you can walk in the freedom God intended for you. God allowed the pain to position you for purpose. There are moments in life when we must go through pain in order to reach our purpose. Nobody likes the process, but the process is necessary. If you look at every great leader, every powerful man or woman of God, you will see one thing in common. Before their elevation, they endured suffering. And I am here to tell you today that your pain was not wasted. It was positioning you for your divine purpose. God allowed you to go through that season with a narcissist, not to break you, but to build you. He was strengthening your discernment, sharpening your wisdom, and refining your spirit. You had to learn who people truly were, not just who they pretended to be. You had to experience betrayal so that you would never again be deceived by empty words. You had to be mistreated so that you would recognize the value of your work. I know it hurt. I know you cried. I know you questioned why God would allow such a thing to happen to you, but let me tell you something. Pain is a teacher. And when God allows pain, it is because He is preparing you for something greater. If you never experienced manipulation, how would you recognize truth? If you never felt rejection, how would you understand the acceptance of God? If you never walked through the storm, how would you appreciate the peace He is about to bring into your life? You see, the enemy thought the pain would destroy you. The narcissist thought that by breaking you, they would erase your power. But what they did not realize was that God was using this very experience to elevate you. Every tear you cried was watering the soil of your destiny. Every wound you endured was birthing the strength you will need for the next season. Ladies and gentlemen, let me be clear. You are not leaving this season empty. You are leaving with power. You are leaving with wisdom. You are leaving with an anointing that only comes from enduring the fire. And when you step into your purpose, you will look back and realize that what the enemy meant for evil, God used for your good. Your departure was the narcissist's judgment, not your defeat. There are some people who believe they can treat others any way they want without consequence. They lie, deceive, manipulate, and think that because they have gotten away with it before, they will continue to get away with it. But what they do not realize is that God is a God of justice. When you left that situation, it was not a loss for you, it was a judgment for them. The narcissists believed they had control over you. They thought they could play games with your emotions and still keep you in their grasp. But God had another plan. He allowed you to endure the storm only for a season. And when the time was right, He pulled you out. He removed you from their reach. And in doing so, He issued His judgment. Pharaoh thought he could keep God's people enslaved forever. But when God said, "Let my people go," nothing could stop their exodus. And I declare to you today that your exodus was your deliverance. You did not lose them. They lost you. They lost the favor of your presence. They lost the prayers you prayed for them. They lost the light you carried. And now they must face the consequences of their own actions. What they did to you will not go unanswered. The very storm they tried to create for you will now be the storm they must endure alone. You will no longer be there to carry them, to pray for them, or to be their supply. And in your absence, they will see the true weight of their decisions. So, do not grieve. Do not look back. Do not wonder if you should have stayed longer. God removed you as a sign of their judgment, not as a sign of your defeat. And as you walk forward, know that you are stepping into a life that is free from their control, free from their manipulation, and free from the weight they tried to place on you. God is elevating you beyond the storm. The storm was not your destination. It was only a passageway. And I declare to you today that God is lifting you beyond the storm. What once held you captive no longer has power over you. What once made you cry will now be the testimony that makes you rejoice. You are stepping into a season where God is restoring everything that was stolen. He is healing every wound, repairing every broken place, and establishing you in a new dimension of purpose. The storm may have shaken you, but it did not destroy you. And because you endured, God is now preparing a table for you in the presence of your enemies. Elevation is here, healing is here, your purpose is here. You were sent to stir the storm, but you were never meant to drown in it. God has pulled you out, and now you will rise higher than you ever imagined. Ladies and gentlemen, hear me today. Your past does not define you. The storm you endured was not your final chapter. It was only a setup for your elevation. The narcissist may have tried to break you, but God has built you. They may have tried to silence you, but God has given you a voice. You are walking into a season of divine restoration, and what was meant to destroy you will become the foundation of your greatest testimony. You were sent to stir the storm, and now you are stepping into the victory. that God has prepared for you. Walk forward with confidence, knowing that the storm was not your end, it was only the beginning of your destiny.